When we talk about intimacy with our partner, why does it usually end in an argument? In this video, that's exactly what we are going to uncover. I'm Shay, I'm a men's coach. I have experienced a lot of awkwardness when it came to intimacy in the bedroom, and now I've worked with guys in every continent around the world, apart from Antarctica, so that they can have intimacy without the awkwardness. So let's talk about what's going on here. Typical arguments that would usually spring up from conversations about intimacy. First of all, it can just feel awkward to even, when do I bring up the conversation over dinner? Is this a good time? We feel like a lump in our throat. How do we even talk about it? But where it can often lead to is one person thinking all you want is more intimacy. That's the only thing that's on your mind. And then it feels like we're trying to defend our position of, no, that's not what I want. It's something else that I'm trying to explain to you. And it always just feels like we're on the back foot and it's about who's right and who is wrong. So let's talk about what is going on here. Two things that are absolutely happening is there's usually a difference between masculine and feminine energy, regardless of what genders are at the table having the conversation, and also going into this conversation with a goal in mind, trying to get something. So I'm going to uncover those one by one. Let's start with the masculine and feminine energy. Now, there are very different ways in which the masculine and the feminine approach intimacy, especially talking about intimacy. There's a high degree of vulnerability and emotions in these conversations. And beyond the area of intimacy, just how the masculine and feminine deal with emotionally charged conversations is very different. So the same applies here. Masculine energy, we tend to find, is more direct, focused on one particular thing, wanting to get the point across, wanting to be heard, wanting to make sure that he's understood so that we're all on the same page. And typically, not always, but typically the feminine energy is more open, is not so much about the immediate focus. It's about understanding the feelings that come up and why are we having this conversation, and the ability to feel heard and feel seen when the feminine is also expressing their point of view. So you can see here, it's two very different ways of approach that even if we take the context of the conversation aside, this in itself can cause a clash. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that when whoever is leading, somebody usually leads this conversation around intimacy, right? If somebody decides, I want to bring this up over the dinner table or when we're laying in bed. When that's happening, we're usually trying to get something, right? Whether that is more intimacy, whether it is trying to be right, whether it's trying to get our point across, whatever it may be, we usually approach this conversation with this is the outcome that we need to achieve. It's a very fixed, rigid outcome. Doesn't have much flexibility. And the amount of guys that I've worked with where this has ended in both people in the bed having a disagreement, it spiraled into that, and then they just turn over, roll over and go to sleep and not talk about it. It feels a bit awkward in the morning, and then a couple of days later we've just forgotten about the whole thing, and then it happens again in a month or a few weeks time. So when we are going into a conversation with this wanting to achieve a specific outcome, wanting to get something, whether it's the person to agree with us, it's forceful, and our partner picks up on that. So here's what to do. First of all, subscribe to this channel because I'll be talking more about the differences between the masculine and the feminine so that you can have tools to use and more resources to know how to handle those conversations. And secondly, the immediate, when it comes to having these conversations about intimacy, I want you to already have the conversation, imagine having the conversation in your mind before it actually happens, and imagine your partner responding with multiple outcomes. So it may be that they agree, it may be that they disagree, it may be that they're neutral about it. The more we can already pre-rehearse that in our mind, the better equipped we are to remain flexible in the moment rather than a rigid, I've got to make sure that my point is heard. Just from these few minutes, we can see why talking about intimacy usually ends in arguments. It's normal because nobody teaches us how to talk about it in the right way, but you are now in the right place to start learning how.